it's Rebecca from Rebecca Ink. Today we are going to draw a bee. What you need to join in is grab a pencil, a piece of paper, a marker, and an eraser, or the back of a pencil eraser. Thank you, Claire Paul, for the suggestion on this guy, and we'll go ahead and get started. You're going to grab your pencil. I'm going to move my guide, and I'm going to use a marker so you can see me better, but you're going to use your pencil. We are going to draw a bee today. It's going to live kind of diagonally on our paper. Our paper is vertical. We're going to start in the upper right-hand portion of our paper with a nice little oval. It's going to be about this big. To get this shape, I'm planting my wrist, kind of air drawing it with my fingers, and as I get the shape I want, I set my pencil down. Next up behind that, we are going to do a bigger oval. It's going to be about this big. I'm going around and around and around and around to get my oval shape. If you've never drawn with me before, now is a time to be really forgiving with yourself. Your lines here are going to serve as guides, and in the long run, they will all be erased. So don't stress too much in the beginning of this. It's nice and loose. Our marks are nice and light on our paper. Let's go back up and connect these two shapes with some connecting triangles. Now we don't need to draw the whole triangle, but we will just draw from this oval down to that oval, create a nice triangle. You see that shape there? That's the triangle I'm talking about. But because we've got these other sides kind of already there, I'm just drawing a diagonal line to connect them, and it gives it a triangle. All right, inside this oval, the bee's eyes sit on either side of the oval. So we are going to add those in next. I'm going to plant my wrist, and with my fingers, I'm going to go around and around and around and draw an oval that fills up that space top to bottom. Same thing on the other side. Very good. Now, inside that, we need some highlights because this section of our bee is all black. And when we fill it in with our marker, we want to be able to tell where are those eyes. So inside those little circles we just drew, let's add in an oval. And then on the outside of it, let's do like a mimicking line. You're just kind of going around that oval you drew. I call it a mimicking line because you're kind of using that as a guide. To get that line, if you're not sure, you can plant your wrist and then just move your hand in that natural shape it's going to go in, and it will give you a really nice arc. Inside this one, let's add another oval. I made mine two different sizes. It really doesn't matter. You just want some sort of highlight in there. Let's go up onto this front part. We need our bee's antennas. So we are going to draw those with some rectangles. Coming off to the top left here, we're going to draw a rectangle. It's about this big. I'm again planting my wrist, and I'm just drawing a skinny little rectangle there. And off of that, I'm just going to draw a diagonal line, because I think my marker will kind of end up making it the thickness I want. If you're using a pen or a really skinny marker to draw over your drawing today, maybe draw another skinny triangle there. I'm sorry, rectangle. Oh my goodness, it's Friday, right? Brain power has been spent. Okay, next up, we're going to do other side. Our antenna is going to come out this way with that beginning rectangle. And then off of that, just kind of a straight little line off of that. Again, if you're using a skinny marker, go ahead and create a little rectangle there. My marker's thicker, and I have a feeling once I go over it, it's just going to fill in that whole space there. All right, moving on to the body. We're going to do a circle here, and then a little circle below it, and then a little circle inside of it. So let's start with that first circle. Now this first circle is large enough. You can get your whole arm going from your shoulder. And see how I'm kind of air drawing it? And once I get that shape going, I go ahead and set my pencil down nice and light. Round and around and around I go. See how my lines are not perfect? I've got some that are inside, I've got some that are outside, and they're kind of a little bit all over the place. Yours is going to be very much the same way, and we're going to just let that be. If you want to get a glimpse of what it's going to look like, squint your eyes and look at the circle you just drew, and you'll see the circle. Inside that, let's do another circle. This one again is big enough. You can get your whole arm going from your shoulder. It's kind of centered in the circle there. Below that, we're going to draw just another little, well, circle about the same size as this one, just kind of dipped below it. So the front part of their bodies closest to their head, they've got like this fuzzy part, then they've got a little break, and then a little bit more fuzz. So that this is going to allow us to get that break in there. Let's go back up and draw in our front two legs here. Off of this first circle that we drew behind the head, we're going to add an oval going this direction. And it's going to be about this big, angled about this direction. Inside that oval, let's give a highlight because their little legs are black. So just give it a nice little oval highlight. Off the tip of that oval, we are going to add in a long, skinny triangle, just like that. And at the end of that, we're going to do one little line and then another little line, kind of like for their little foot. All right, over to the other side, same thing. Add in an oval. Inside that, a highlight oval. Off of that, long skinny triangle. And then on this one, we're kind of seeing it at a different angle, so we're just going to add in one line right there, just like that. Now, if you want to, you can make these little rectangles. If you've got a really skinny marker, you can make this a little rectangle because we want it to be about this thick. I'm going to use a Sharpie, and it's going to give me a line about that thick, so that's why I'm just drawing straight lines. Okay, next up, let's do this body. Now, their body is long and oval shaped, and it's going to be about the same width as this head. So we're going to tuck it in right here. It's going to have a little bit of an indent, and we're going to come down in a nice oval shape right here. So get your whole arm going from your shoulder and draw in that nice oval shape right there. Now, as I'm going around, I'm double checking. Is it about as wide as that circle I drew behind the head? When I first started drawing, it wasn't, so I just went around again, went a little bit wider. When we go to trace over this with our marker, we're going to pick our favorite lines. So use it as a guide, nice and light, and allow yourself to go around several times to get the shapes that you want. All right. Inside their bodies, we all know these bees have stripes. That's how we identify them. So we're going to draw, you're going to plant your wrist kind of up by the head, and we're going to give it a nice little arc, just like this. Now they've got these sections on their bodies. So up here they're kind of like a brownish color, and then they're interrupted by some black. Now we're going to angle our wrist the other direction and draw a nice arc going across this way. This first shape is not an actual stripe. It kind of looks like this, like it's being pinched. All right, next up, another arc going back this way. And then space it about 1/4 of an inch down. Do another one. And then another one. Same distance apart. Same thing, 1/4 inch down. Draw another one. And then another one. Getting all our stripes in here. And then toward the bottom they get thicker. So make that one thicker. And then thinner. All right, now that we've got our arcs in, they kind of go down 1/4 of an inch, nice arc. You're going to end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of them. The last 2 are spaced further apart. They're a little bit thicker. At the base of that oval, their body shape kind of comes to a little bit of a point here. Now I like the arc that I've got on this side of my oval. Just going to accentuate that. And then over here, I'm going to make this a little bit more of a triangular shape, like that, because my oval is a little fatter on that side. So if you've got that going on, add in these little arcs at the bottom to kind of cut off some of that excess oval. Okay, let's go back into these shapes here. If you were thinking it was like black, yellow, black, yellow, black, yellow, you're close, but not quite. The black sections of their body are a little bit whiter than the yellow. So we are going to draw these two stripes, I'm going to call them stripes, are going to function as one color unit. These two are both going to be black. And they kind of indent. So off to the side there, we're going to draw from this first arc to that next arc. We're going to add in a little triangle. So we're going to draw a little diagonal line like that. And then from the next line down, diagonal line like that. Same thing on the other side. Diagonal line kind of tucks in. Imagine that this is like a band and they get like pinched like they're wearing a belt right there. On this black section, let's add in some rectangles for highlights. So it goes like fuzzy, and then this part is smooth and kind of shiny. So we're going to add in a little highlighted area here. We're going to just draw in a nice loose rectangle there, where we're not going to color that in black when we go to fill in the colors. Below that, let's add in another one. A nice little rectangle there. I'm just kind of moving my hand where it feels comfortable. I'm planting my wrist and kind of following along that diagonal line. Now, with your pencil, because when I did this the first time, I got confused. What's black? What's yellow? What am I doing? So with your pencil, nice and lightly, just kind of give yourself a guide of this is the dark section. So we don't accidentally flip them. I did that on my guide. Well, I don't want that to happen to you. Okay, so that's our dark section. Next up we have a fuzzy section, and then again another dark section. So these two right here that my finger is on top of, these are going to be another dark section. So we're going to add in that little triangle on the either side there. Pinch it in like it's wearing a belt. This would be the belt right here. Alrighty, and then let's give that a few little highlights. I'm going to add just like a long skinny rectangle here, and another one over here, and one in the middle. Doesn't really matter at this point where those live, but you want to have a hint of them. Again, let's give ourselves that guide because it gets confusing with all these little stripes. This whole area will be dark. Say it out loud to yourself. Okay, then we've got a fuzzy section and then a dark section again. On this larger arced area, let's give another little highlight. Just a nice skinny little rectangle will do. Let yourself know this is dark. Just nice and light with your pencil, just kind of give it a little jig-jag over it so you can see when you go to fill this in with our marker, we know this is dark right here. Then this last little section of the tail, I'm going to call it a tail, back end. Let's give it a little highlight over here. I'm going to give it a shape like that, just to let it know. This kind of shape is going to help show that it's rounded and it's angled down. And then let yourself know, this area here is dark. All right. Let's move back up and add in a few more legs and some wings. Let's start with the legs. This next pair of legs is going to live off of that larger body oval that we drew. We're going to do a little oval here. And off of that one, we're going to do a little fatter oval. Let's give that one a highlight. So inside that, another oval. You're just planting your wrist and going around and around doing these ovals. Next up, an oval about like that, and then off of that, a rectangle with a little circle on the end. Very good. These legs are the largest pair of legs here. I would imagine they're probably the strongest. I'm going to make this one a little bit fatter. Imagine this would be like their bicep. and they have a nice big muscle in that little leg. All right, over here. Because of the angle our bee is in, we don't see this little oval that connects it to the body. That's kind of tucked in there. So we're going to start with this bigger one, and we're going to go out and around. Nice and light. Give that a nice little highlight there. Then connect it to another one, just like that. Another little highlight. Then we are on to our little rectangle with a circle in the end. Let's go back over here and add in the highlight over here. I forgot that one. Let's add in a little highlight there. All right, next up, their back legs. Now their back legs live right along in this center section here. We're going to draw a nice little oval here and a nice little oval here. Just about that big. Plant your wrists, go around and around and around. Now off of those ovals, I want you to, now if I were doing this on my own, I would rotate my paper. Let's start with this one so I can show you that angle, and then you can rotate your paper and do this other one. I'm going to plant my wrist, and at the end of that oval, I'm just going to give a nice little arced line coming down. And when I plant my wrist and then I move my hand, it's going to go naturally in that arc. So if you want to, you can rotate your paper, plant your wrist, and we're going to do the other one. The other one is coming out this way. So make sure if you rotate your paper that your leg is arcing the same direction. So it's kind of, if you were to draw a circle, it'd be headed back up toward those front legs that we just drew. So that's the angle that you want. All right, now we are ready for the wings. We are going to draw an oval on either side of this body. Now this one on the right hand side, the wing is going to overlap a little bit. So we're going to do an oval. It's going to live right about here. I'm nice and light, round and round I go. And then I'm going to connect it. Now up here where we had our circle right behind the head with a littler circle and that next circle, kind of where the body oval and that last circle live, I'm going to add a little circle. Because on this side you kind of see that connector there. And from there I'm going to draw a diagonal line and connect down to the oval I just drew. Then same thing on that other side of that little circle, diagonal line and connect down. Now to get this line, I'm nice and light, and then this oval sticks out just a little bit. So you're kind of drawing a connecting triangle, but at the end there's a little circle. Other side. Now this one is kind of tucked next to it. So it's going to live right about here. Now if yours is not matching up exactly to mine, that is fine. You just kind of need the area to be about the same. If your wings are a little longer, a little shorter, that's fine. Okay, don't worry about it. From here, we're going to go up that oval. We're going to draw a nice little connecting line up to this circle. I'm just going to look about like this. Now because of the angle of the bee that I chose to draw, we're not going to see that little connecting point there. All right, inside of our wings, we have some shapes that kind of remind me of like the twig you would stick in the side of a snowman. We did these when we drew the dragonfly. So as you come, ride that line down onto that oval, then just kind of tuck inside there with a nice like light, loose line, and off the sides, give it like its little twigs. I'm just kind of touching my pencil down and lightly pulling it off. And then from the center of that wing, up back by its head, draw another nice long line down. And once you pass that leg, branch it off and give it its little fingers like it would have if you were popping a stick into the either side of a snowman. All right, let's go back up. On this side, same thing. We're going to want a long one with the little prongs coming off. Now they have lots of these in their wings, but we're not going to draw all of them. We're just going to draw a few to give it the hint. And then over here, same kind of deal. Now we are ready for our marker. you have everything you need. And look, it already looks pretty cool. Switch over to your marker or whatever drawing utensil you have that you can't erase. That's the key there. You don't want to be able to erase it. Just gonna take a quick peek. I'm still lined up. That's good. All right, let's start with the antennas. These antennas are all black. So go ahead and trace over that rectangle you drew, and most likely it will get filled in by your marker. And then down that long skinny rectangle, back over to the other side. One rectangle there, and then down that long skinny rectangle, just like that. Now this front part of their face, this part is kind of yellow and it's fuzzy. So we are going to do, we've done this before, you just lightly touch your marker down to that line and flick it out. Now these marks are tiny because it's not super fuzzy right here. It's just a little fuzzy. And we're just going to go around the edges of those shapes. So we did the connecting triangle around the top of that oval and over. Now, onto that next oval that we drew, this top part is not super crisp defined. It's got that fuzziness coming into it. So we're going to do that same thing across that line. Just a simple touch and flick, and they're little, not super big and fuzzy, just a little bit. Now for our eyes, we're going to go around that whole oval and then around our highlight oval so we don't accidentally color it in, and then color the rest in with your marker nice and black. Very good. Over to the other side, around your oval and back, around your highlight and back. Fill the rest of it in. As you start drawing over the shapes that you drew, you're picking your favorite line. So if you need a second to look at it and say, oh, I want it to be fatter here or skinnier here, now's when you're making those decisions. So if I'm going faster and you want to take a second and think about it, pause me, think about what line you want to draw over, pick it and draw over it, and hit play when you're ready to come back. All right, now that mimicking line, we're just going to trace over that. Same thing on the other side, trace over that. Now this bottom section is defined, and it goes like this, nice and sharp and crisp. Then this whole middle section, oh, you know what? I forgot our little highlights on here. Draw a few little highlights on there. Just draw a nice little oval with your marker and a nice little circle up at the top. And then fill the rest of that in black. This part of the bee is shiny. I think it's the combination of the soft and fuzzy that makes them feel like, oh, sweet, and the shiny that makes them feel like, ooh, danger. Okay, this next part, this circle that we drew behind that head, it tucks in behind that oval we just did, and this part is fuzzy, and it's fuzzier than the front. So from here, we're going to go just inside that circle that we drew, and we're going to draw lines coming out about this long. So if you're older, about 1/4 of an inch long, touch and flick. You see how on mine, my circle comes right here. I'm going just inside that and flicking out, and I'm going to go all the way around that circle. I'm moving my hand as I go around and pointing the fur so it kind of goes around the circle with me, if that makes sense. Now when you get over here to this wing, stop. This wing kind of sits on top. This one was tucked underneath. This one sits on top. So stop there, hop back on, and go around to the face. Just like that. Nice fuzzy body. I'm just going to kind of go back and give it a few more so it's not super tidy. Okay, inside. Now if you looked at a bee, this part would be fuzzy, but you would also be able to see some of the black part of the body that lives underneath that yellow fuzzy fur. It sort of reminded me of like male pattern baldness. So that's what this circle inside there is. We're just going to give a hint of that darker body that lives underneath that fur. We're going to go back and forth, nice and loose and a little messy around some of this circle here. It's kind of just a jiggy-jaggy back and forth, nice and loose. Just to give a hint that like there's some darkness that you see here too. It's not all fuzzy. All right, next up, around this next oval or next circle that we drew, the base of that is it's fuzzy again. So this time we're going to touch our marker to that the base of that circle and just flick it out and give that fuzz. Nice and light with your touch. And they don't need to be uniform, just kind of flick it out however it lands. Go over it a few times so it doesn't look like super tidy. Then where we have the inside of that circle, we're just going to give a nice line through there. Go over that like maybe twice because there's a hint of darkness right there. All right, let's go back up and do our legs. For our legs, we are going to draw around that oval, then around our highlight, and we're just going to fill in the rest with our marker, nice and black. Next up, we're going to do our long skinny triangle. I'm leaving like a little bit of a disconnect between them. We're going to do that on all of them. And then we're going to do that little rectangle and that little rectangle. See how my marker kind of made those rectangles? If you're using a skinny marker, you may need to draw around and fill it in. All right, other side. Nice oval here. Trace around that. Trace around your highlight. And then fill in the rest black. You've done all of the difficult stuff. All right, now go around your triangle and around your skinny rectangle at the end. All right, let's do the wings next. So let me talk about the wings for a second. You can see through them. So we're going to give hints when we go back of where this leg is and where this leg is and where the body is. But for now, we're going to do the edges of the wing because I'm going to flip to my guide here. We're just going to do this kind of thing to show where things are underneath there, just hints of them, because we want the wing to read on top. So for this guy, you see some of that circle there. So where your circle kind of gets cut by this body circle, stop there. Then we're going to go down around this top part of this connecting triangle, down onto that oval, and just slightly around the edge of that. So draw with your marker nice and smooth. Don't sketch, sketch, sketch. Down around the connecting onto that oval and give it a little flick at the end. Let's go back over that one more time. They've got like almost like a little spine or like a heavier part. Maybe it'd be like cartilage that lives on their wing there, and it's medium brown and it lives on that edge. Then inside there, those little veins, I'm going to call them veins, that's not what they are. My guess is they're like a little bone or something. Let's do those. Now for those, loosen your grip and nice and light. Barely touch your marker down. See how mine is kind of skipping? When I get to the end, I'm just kind of lifting it. Just giving hints of those veins. And those are what I was calling before, like your snowman arms. See that? It'd be like the twig with the two littler twigs coming off. All right, the inside part of that wing. We're going to do that same kind of grip on our marker, nice and loose. Follow that connecting triangle down around that oval. It's okay if it skips and doesn't make like a real nice dark line like we did over here, because this part is translucent and you can see through it. So we just kind of want to give a hint. It's delicate. Okay, over here, same thing that we did on this side of this wing. We're going to go nice and dark, nice and strong and bold down that connecting triangle, onto that oval, and around the edge. So go ahead, trace over the lines you've already drawn. If you need to stop and pick up your marker, go ahead and do that. Try to connect back nice and smooth. Go back up. Let's go over that one more time, make it a little bit thicker. Very good. Now for me, And actually for you too, on this side, this fur is reading on top of it. So if the fuzzy lines now look like they're behind that, go over your fuzzy lines a few more times. Push that back down. Okay. Inside of that rides right along our bee's body. So nice and loose grip on your marker. Down you go. Let your hand waver just a little bit. Let it have some skips and areas that don't touch. Then let's go in and add in our little snowman arms. Down we go, nice and light. Touch and flick, touch and flick. Then off that edge. Okay, now let's go back and do our legs. We are going to see just this little bit of this oval. So fill that in nice and black. Then we're going to do just like we did on these, where we trace around that whole oval shape. You decide how fat, how skinny, and then trace around your highlight so you don't accidentally color it in, and fill it in black. Same thing, next one down, around your oval, around your highlight, fill the rest in black. Alright, next up we have our rectangle and our circle. You can make that all one shape. This is the part that starts to collect the pollen. Okay, over here we're going to see this part of this leg. So from that wing, go around the part of the oval you see and around the highlight that you see and fill that in nice and black. Same thing on the next section, around you go. If it helps you to tilt your paper to get these shapes, to trace around them, tilt your paper. If it helps you to move your arm, move your arm. Your arm should never feel uncomfortable. So if it feels uncomfortable, do something about it. All right, around the rectangle, onto that little circle. Now we have the back legs. For the back legs, we don't really see that connecting and this whole arc, but we do see a hint of it. So let's do, from the wing, nice and dark, we're going to do this little arc. So plant your wrist, trace over that nice and definitively. Nice bold mark. I got a little off of my arc at the end there. I'm just going to solve that problem by making it a little fatter there. All right, over here, same thing. Trace over that. Now, loosen your grip. We're going to just give some hints of what we can't really see the full thing of. So up here we had these thicker parts of the leg. We're just kind of going to give a little back and forth where that would have been nice and light. Same thing on this back leg. This time I'm just going to go nice and light. I have a really light grip on my marker, and I'm just going to give a hint of where that lives. Same thing on the other side. Just pick a spot around that oval and then down the diagonal line. That's all you're going to draw there. Now we are ready for the body. This top section here where it comes in, this is black. So we are going to trace over that arc. Stop when you get to your wing. Same thing on this side. Trace over that arc, stopping when we get to our wing, and we're going to fill this in nice and black. Now it doesn't have to be solid. If you let your marker have some like little gaps, that's going to allow it to have that shiny kind of feel. So allow it to have some gaps there. The only part I'm making sure that's nice and solid around that edge and around this edge. All right. Next up, this part would be like a really pretty kind of burnt brown color. And where it meets up with this black section, it's fuzzy. So along this top part of the black section, we're going to add in, like we did kind of up here, we're going to add in that back and forth kind of thing, touching and flicking off the edge of that arc. On this one, I'm making it more of a scribble kind of motion rather than that touch and flick. You decide how you want to do it there. And then you can go back and add in some different directions to give it some depth. All right, now we are ready for that next section. We're going to go down that diagonal line that created that triangle and kind of cinched it up like he's wearing a belt. and then around that bottom arc. Next up, go around your highlights so you don't accidentally color them in dark. Now that whole thing gets filled in black. All the way up to your scribbles, all the way down. Stop when you get to your wing, don't go over. Now for this wing, I'm just going to give a hint of those lines coming up just ever so slightly, and then a hint of where that belt would be, and that band, and that band. And maybe just like a couple little marks to be like, oh, there's something dark underneath that wing. What is it? All right, next up, we're going to do that same exact thing on this next section. The top part of it, go in just inside of it, touch and flick out. That fuzz that's in between kind of rests inside that darker, shiny area. All right, next up, that little triangular cinch. It's wearing a belt, and then around that arc. Now do around your highlights so you don't accidentally color them in with black. Stop when you get to your wing. I'm glad we did that little hint to remind us this is dark. So when I was doing my guide, I got ahead of myself and I kind of bumped everything up a notch. So it's good to give ourselves that reminder. There's no right or wrong way to fill this in. If you want to go at an angle, if you want to go back and forth, if you want to do little circles, however you want to do that. There's no right or wrong way to do that. Same thing in this area over here. I'm going to give a hint of that cinched area, where the belt would be, where that bottom mark would be, maybe where that fuzz would be. Just like nice and light, not super detailed. Okay, next up, these two next sections, same edge along the top, it's a little looser. So you're going to go that kind of scribbly kind of top there on this one. And then nice and tight to the edge and nice and neat along the bottom. Trace along your curved arced line. Trace along your highlight. If you need to rotate your paper, rotate your paper. Fill that in nice and black. We're almost done, you guys. I'm excited to see what this guy looks like erased. Make sure you send me your drawings. I haven't gotten very many drawings the past few days. And I know you're watching, so send me your drawings. Okay, next up, jiggy jaggy along the top of that. Kind of go into it because I made mine kind of close there, so I'm sure you made yours kind of close there. So start at the top of that and point it down into that shape. Just kind of jiggy jaggy. Oh, the sun might be coming out. All right, now we're going to go along that arc, bringing it to a point, and along that arc that brings it to a point, and then around our highlight. All right, fill that in. Are you thinking of what you want to draw next week? I need some suggestions, so send me those in the comments as well. All right, now we need to connect. So we're just going to add, where it's fuzzy, we're just going to add a little line kind of along our oval shape. And on the body over here that lays underneath that wing, we're going to give nice and super light. Just follow along that oval, headed back up. And where we had that dark band up here, give it a hint of that as well. We forgot to do that. Just nice and light. And we're all set. We are ready to erase. All right, I'm going to switch back to my guide because I drew this one in pencil, and I'm going to erase right along with you. Grab your eraser. Make sure it's clean. My eraser has some darker spots. If I erase with that, it's going to leave a dark mark on my paper. Steady your paper so you don't crinkle it. And let's start erasing. I'm just going to go over nice and light with your eraser and get rid of those guides that we drew. And it's going to make your highlights really pop. A lot of your guides might be drawn all the way over and you don't really see them. But inside here, I can see I had a lot of pencil lines, so I'm sure you did too. Go over those with your eraser and get rid of them. Make sure you move your studying hand right along with you. Now, if you have some darker marks, take a second and just go over those lines a few times with your eraser, and they'll erase really well. Just like that. Down you go. Down your bee. Don't forget about their little legs and where you've got your fur that you drew. Now, if you wanted to color this in, you could take a look online about what colors to use. They're not just black and yellow, surprisingly. This top part here is that really pretty kind of brownish, burnt brown is what I'm going to call it. It's like brownish, orangish, yellowish, lots of ishes. All right, into the body we go, erasing. Study your paper with your hands and go over it with your eraser. Make sure to send me pictures of what you've drawn in the comments below. I will post them on my website as well as let them live in the comments. They will be on my website, RebeccaInc.com. You can find them under the Interact tab. I usually update it every couple days with pictures people have sent me. So send me those. That's fun to see what everybody's doing. It also helps me know what do I need to explain better. Because like I've mentioned when I first started doing these, I'm not a teacher by trade. So I'm learning this as I go along, right along with you. You can find me on Facebook, Rebecca Inc., YouTube, Rebecca Inc. If you know somebody that doesn't have Facebook but they want to draw, find Rebecca Inc. on YouTube. I'm uploading them there. You can also find on Spoonflower, I have fabric designs, and I have quite a few. Lots of collections on there, and you can find me on Instagram at Rebecca Inkabink. If you're looking for something fun to do over the weekend, on my website, I have downloadable coloring pages. They cost $1. It's a nice way to support me and my family during this time, as well as give yourself something to do. So it's a bit of a win-win. Color them in. I'm excited to see what you do with those. And send me those as well. I'll put those up on my Interact tab too. Send me what you want to draw, what you have drawn. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you on Monday. Have a good weekend. Bye.